Good morning. Today we're going to discuss the accrual for sales returns when there's inventory involved and cost of goods sold. So a little bit more complex than we talked about. Quick review. I always start out with bad debt expense because of the similarities. I sell something for credit. Collect some of the money, and on December 31st, I'm going to accrue for bad debt expense. And the accrual for bad debt expense reduces net income, and the allowance account reduces the net realizable value of accounts receivable. It reduces the amount of accounts receivable I'm going to report on the balance sheet. When I actually write a customer off, when I read they go bankrupt and write them off, that journal entry has no effect on net income. In fact, it has no effect on the net realizable value of accounts receivable because it's accounts receivable and it's contra account, an allowance account, it's contra account. So the process for sales returns is very similar. And so I always start with that. Now to set the problem up, excuse me, if I'm going to have sales, I need to have some inventory. So I start out with $20,000 worth of inventory. I start out with some accounts receivable. I just made those up to start with something. The book tells me that we have $300 in our allowance for estimated returns. So we're saying, well, people owe us, our customers owe us $47.50, but we're not going to see it all because we fully expect that some of them are going to return goods. How many? I don't know. We guessing 300. Now, we also need an allowance for inventory. And in this case, I realized the problem tells me that the cost of goods sold is 65% of sales. So I'm going to assume that my allowance for inventory would be 65% of my allowance for estimated returns under accounts receivable. So we'll watch that as we go through. First part is pretty easy. We sell stuff. We've been doing that for a while now. And this problem, it says we had sales of $11,500. They tell me cost of goods sold 65% of sales, so that's $74.75. I'm happy. We collect some of our customers pay us, so we receive cash. Nothing new and exciting here. I just make up a number, 9,000. I can see the changes going on in accounts receivable. Now 12/31 comes along, and I'm going to accrue for for sales returns. We have a 90-day sales policy. So these people bought stuff in December. They're not going to return it. They bought it for Christmas. They're not going to return it till next year. But I want to record the negative impact of this possible sales returns in the period of the sale. I don't want to wait till they actually return the goods. So I accrue a sales return, but I use an allowance account here. Now in this problem, it says we're going to estimate that 4% of our customers will pay us, just like we did with bad debt expense. It's just going to be a percentage of sales. We're going to say, historically about 4% of our customers return goods rather than pay us. So I'm going to accrue for that. Now notice what's this saying here? This is saying, oh guys, we're not going to collect all $72.50 because some customers are going to return goods. We don't know who's not going to return goods, but some of our customers will return goods rather than pay us. So we aren't going to collect all $72.50. The other half of the entry is sales returns. And notice that's just a negative sale. That reduces net sales. That reduces gross profit. So this entry on 12/31 reduces the net realizable value of my accounts receivable. It also reduces my net sales, my gross profit, my net income. But in this case, let's say that we will be able to put this merchandise back on the shelf and resell it. And so when they return this goods, if they return $460 worth of goods and the problem tells us that the cost of goods sold 65%, then we're going to get $299 that we can put back on the shelf. Now, so this entry reduces cost of goods sold. If I'm going to reduce the benefit of this transaction up here, when they return goods, if they return goods, I lose the benefit of this transaction. Then when I reduce the benefit, I should also reduce the expense. Okay, that makes sense to me. Now, a little bit more problematic to me is, I'm calling this an inventory allowance. I'm calling this an asset, this $299, but they may never return the goods to me. Can I call it an asset before they return the goods? Well, that is problematic, but let's think of these two together. Let's think of the inventory allowance account and the accounts receivable allowance account. You see, if they never return the goods, then I'm never going to use this negative asset either, am I? So if they don't return the goods, I'm never going to use this negative asset. And so, yeah, this may never turn into an asset, but if this doesn't turn into an asset, then I won't need this allowance over here. Okay, so that's how I kind of justify it in my mind. But we're putting the pain and suffering in the period of the sale. Okay, so this adjusting entry reduces the net realizable value of my accounts receivable. It reduces the net sales, gross profit, and net income. So I put all the pain and suffering in the year of the sale, and then when they actually return goods next year, I know the problem says that Joe returns $450. Well, once Joe returns the goods, I realize I'm never going to collect money from Joe, so I write off Joe's account. But I write it against a contra account. So this entry has no effect on net income. It's two balance sheet accounts. Heck, it doesn't even have any effect on the net realizable value of accounts receivable because it's a contra account and the accounts receivable. They offset each other. Now for the inventory, when Joe returns the goods, what's 450 times 0.65, 292. I don't want to play with pennies here, so please forgive me. I'm just going to put 292 there, and I'm sorry. But notice when Joe actually returns the goods, we can stick it in inventory. But that has no effect on net income because these are two inventory accounts. It's inventory and it's contra account. Okay, so we debit inventory, but we reduce this allowance account because now they have returned the goods. I hope that helps you better understand accruing for sales returns when we have inventory involved, and we can put it back on the shelf and resell it. Thank you and have a nice day.